Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode. Latest flick that is out from the world of John Wick. We're going to talk Ballerina, and I am here with my co-host Kaede. Kaede, what's going on, bro?
Howdy, people.
And Mike. Mike, what's up?
What's up? What's up?
Okay, so before we get started, let me preface this by saying I've not seen it yet because life happened, but I plan on going to see it this weekend. These two other characters have seen it, and they're going to get into the nitty gritty of it.
Are we keeping it
As
spoiler
far as
free or no spoilers?
Yeah, let's keep it spoiler free.
Spoiler free is
right,
fine.
Yeah, it just came out.
thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
You're
let's do it.
welcome.
Let's do it.
I'm curious. So the very first question I got for the both of you is, when does this take place in the timeline of John Wick movies?
So apparently, this is supposed to take place between John Wick's 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is our plot like? What do we have going on here?
So basically, we have Anna de Armas playing Eve Macaro, who, as a child, her father was trying to keep her from this sort of rogue cult of assassins led by Gabriel Byrne, and her father is killed, but she eventually gets away. And Winston, Ian McShane, finds her and brings her to Angelica Houston's character from John Wick 3, who is the head of the Roscaroma. And this is where you see all of
Hey, Black
these.
Widows.
Oh, yeah, basically. It's totally Black Widow, but the whole idea is that they are trained as ballerinas, but that is a cover for them as bodyguards / assassins.
Yes.
Wait a minute. That because that was a part of John Wick 3 when John Wick.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I remember that.
And after John Wick 3 came out, that's when they started to develop Ballerina. And it's basically implied that the dancer who was performing in that scene in John Wick 3
Yeah.
is who Anna de Armas plays in Ballerina, even though that was a different actress.
Okay. And it's crazy that I just watched 3 again last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so that it makes much more sense.
Yeah.
And if I'm correct, Keanu Reeves makes an appearance as well. Is it a small cameo, or is it a significant scene?
It was actually a little bit more than I thought it was going to be. It was a little bit more
Yeah.
than a cameo, but not like he's in half of the movie either.
Yeah,
Good.
because they do have one scene where it's basically Eve seeing him meet with Angelica Houston's character during that scene from John Wick 3.
Uh-huh.
And then they just add more to it so that they have an actual conversation with one another. And then he factors back in later on in the film.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, so going around to you two guys. Mike, what was your impressions of the film? Highs, lows, things that needed improvement?
Well, to me, it was very much in line with the John Wick films. I enjoy all of them. I'm an action movie fan, and when you love action movies as I do, a lot of times you have to suspend reality. A lot of times you have to forego plot. Um, this, of course, was not some groundbreaking film, but was it entertaining as heck? Yes. It was very action. It was actually more action packed than I thought it was going to be. There was quite a few action scenes throughout the entire thing. So I was very pleased with this movie, and it very much fits into the world of John Wick very neatly and nicely, in my opinion.
Okay. Kaede.
I pretty much agree. I thought that, for one, obviously, looking at the whole side of Angelica Houston's character from John Wick 3 and what was going on with her organization, that was definitely some area where you could say, if we wanted to do a film about this world, let's go ahead and do it. And it was great that we had this opportunity to actually see that happen. And I think for a lot of folks who saw that scene with Anna de Armas in No Time to Die, where she is in and out of that movie quick, fast, but
Like
makes an
5 seconds.
impression.
First
So
day on
to,
the job.
yeah. So to see her in this, and especially with people who still question whether or not she can act, no, this woman can act. And I think there have been enough, and there have been more than enough films that she's been in, I think, where she gets to show different sides of herself.
I liked her in Blade Runner. Like, I didn't think she was a bad actor. Like, that's the first thing I remember seeing her in was Blade Runner, and I thought she did a great job.
Because she's definitely charming in No Time to Die, and this is actually the third film she's been in with Keanu Reeves.
Oh, wow.
Right.
I didn't realize that.
And a lot of people forgot, too, she was in the Marilyn Monroe movie back in 22.
Yeah.
Blonde.
Yes.
Okay.
So you get that part of her from just all of these different acting roles that she's had, but also in terms of handling the action and the fight choreography, she is doing the damn thing. Obviously, there are plenty of points where, yes, they have to employ a stunt performer to replace her for certain scenes, but you can see how much she committed to the training that all these other actors have done, especially Keanu Reeves, especially Halle Berry. And for a lot of people that probably were apprehensive about this film because she is a woman with a small frame, they actually acknowledge this in the film.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
And furthermore, we actually get more opportunities to see female combatants in this film than we do in John Wick films in general.
Yes.
So it's never just a situation where, oh, we're putting 130-pound Ana de Armas against some 250-pound monster in every scene. Although it is funny that Daniel Bernhardt, who is obviously goes way back with Chad Stahelski as far as stunt performing, even before 8711 became a thing. This man, I feel, has been in almost every one of the John Wick films, including this. Never looks any different, but is always playing a different character because he always dies.
Yeah. And he was also one of like the agents in the Matrix movies. Well, in the second one,
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Because again, Chad Stahelski doubled for Keanu Reeves in the Matrix. So I actually before I went and saw Ballerina, I saw the documentary Wick is Pain.
Yeah.
Which is
he was also in that Mortal Kombat series back in the 90s.
No, that was J.J. Perry.
Okay.
But he's also from that same crew. Like, just to... If you have not seen Wick is Pain, and this is for either of you, Harry or Mike, or anyone listening, that is just a great documentary to see how hard it was to develop John Wick as a film. And they spend a big portion going into the history of Chad Stahelski, David Lynch, and how they came up together as stunt performers. And also, if some folks probably didn't realize this until a couple of years ago, Chad Stahelski was the stand-in for Brandon Lee.
Oh, wow.
After he died on the set of The Crow.
He was right. Okay.
So that scene where after Eric puts the makeup on and is standing in the window,
that was him.
That's Chad.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great stuff.
That's deep.
But yeah, in terms of action in Ballerina, it can be a little overwhelming at times because you do want there to be some plot. And it's tough because I think the John Wick films have already done so much in terms of world building that they kind of prioritize the action and try to add this new element that doesn't necessarily fit in as smoothly as you would want, just because you're not getting the same time to breathe as you would in subsequent John Wick films, where the John Wick films just get longer with every installment.
Yeah.
And that's
to the point where the last one was almost 3 hours.
and that's what I was getting ready to say. That was probably my biggest turnoff with three. Was it was almost 3 hours of murder porn, plain and simple. Because it's like you get an action scene that stretches for a bit, then there's some dialogue to stretch the story, then there's more action, and by the end, by the time he's fighting in the streets of Paris, I'm not going to front. I was like, okay, can we wrap this up now? like
Wait, are you
like
talking about 3 or
See,
4?
see, I'm on the
four.
opposite spectrum because
Oh,
I
okay.
love action. Because
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
I love
I've done
I
some
love
stunt work myself,
I,
so
yeah.
I love the action.
I mean, don't
No,
get me
I
wrong.
lo-
I
I
love action, but don't give me action and sacrificing for really getting your point across. Because after a while, it's like, okay, and this is me, and I'm probably in the minority. I felt like with part four, I was like, okay, some of these scenes are starting to overstay their welcome. I know they're supposed to go someplace, but just get me to the next plot point. Because at this point in part four, when they're fighting in the streets of Paris, I'm ready for the duel. I was like, okay, get me to the duel. Okay, he's almost at the top of the stairs. Oh shit, he done fell. God. And he didn't just fall down the stairs. He fell down
Yeah,
each
all the
and
way
He
down.
fell
every.
all the way
He was
down the
like Bunny.
stairs.
Like
Oh,
I
boom.
can see your point, but for me, I loved every minute of it.
Right.
Because just
No,
like
I understand.
like in
I
Ballerina,
definitely
I
understand
feel
where
like
you're
there
coming from.
was, yeah, I can understand where you're coming from, but I still feel like there was enough plot. It's
Yeah.
like because I can see how you guys have more of the same, I guess, viewpoint on this, where it's like sometimes action can overwhelm like the story. I felt like personally there was enough story to get me through, and I was totally into all of the action.
Yeah.
Like like you said, the Harry, the murder point. Hey, I'm here
Murder
for it.
porn, yeah. No, because especially,
That's why I'm here for it.
yeah, because
I just
especially
I
with
felt like there
Ballerina,
was just I felt like there was just enough, you know, plot points, in my opinion, to justify the amount of action. And
Okay.
I do, and Nikade, to piggyback off of your point of how they did explain how she, as like you said, 100 whatever pound woman, can overcome these odds is because how she was trained. She was
Right.
told from the very beginning, you're always going to be weaker. You're always going to be strong. You know, not as fast. You're never going to be able to do this if you're, you know, fighting hand to hand and like, you know, you're not using your head. So she had to say, okay, everyone's going to be stronger, faster, whatever. I have to do something different to overcome these odds. And that's what she did throughout this entire movie.
yeah,
And also, you know, with her even playing off of John Wick, they even, you know, have some scenes with that as well of how they play off of each other. And it actually explains how, and actually makes it very believable how she's able to overcome these odds.
Got it.
and then of course you just have moments like in the restaurant where they're just doing straight vaudeville or Hong Kong
Oh
action
yeah,
movie stuff like the Jackie Chan shit. Because when you understand 8711 as a collective and all of the influences that they bring in, because they're bringing in the same way Jackie Chan was influenced by guys like Buster Keaton and
exactly.
the school Hollywood stunt or actors who had to do their own stunts because they didn't have a framework for it.
Nope.
They're doing a lot of that in this film, and they have this great scene where her and someone she's fighting have to find a gun that's hidden under a whole stack of plates. And then it just turns into a gag of them hitting each other with the
With the
plates
plates.
as they're trying to find the gun.
Yeah,
So
it's great.
things like that really make the action varied, and nothing ever gets boring, even when it can feel overwhelming at a time, because at a certain point you kind of have this whole thing where, oh wait, everyone she's encountering is an assassin.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I totally agree. I was totally invested, and I was like, hey, I love this just as much as any other John Wick film, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Okay. So you kind of answered my question because I was going to ask, like, does this film fit or should it have been like
Man,
on?
it's
Okay.
it totally fits
It,
in the John Wick universe.
Yeah,
Totally fits.
absolutely.
There was no like to me as because I'm a huge John Wick fan. I own all of the movie. I'm a huge John Wick fan.
yeah,
So with that being said, for me going into this and being like, to me, this was literally just another installment, and it didn't even like miss a step in my opinion. I was totally down.
yeah. Because the only thing I was just kind of concerned with is, it didn't have, unfortunately, it didn't have a great box office opening. I'm still gonna go see it though,
Yeah, of
but
course.
it's one of those things where money is what counts to the next big thing. Like, are we going to do another
Yeah.
one? And I don't know if it was one of those things whether it was under advertised because like I felt like I knew enough about it to know, hey, I want to go check this out, or with sensibilities from certain folk these days. Oh, it's just a woman doing John
See
Wick.
that's what I think. So it had enough marketing there because I go to the movies a lot. We all do, right?
Yeah.
So this trailer was shown a
A
lot, a lot.
Yeah,
So the marketing for this movie was, not subpar. Okay,
hmm
so for people not to go see it if it did do poorly or whatever, that it was probably basically because they're like, well, this is like the female version of John Wick, and we've seen this before. But they actually did do it different, and I felt as though this matched up to any other John Wick film. I really enjoyed it just as much
Yeah,
as it.
because I don't. Yeah, because I don't think it's necessarily a situation where they're not going to see it because it's a woman, but just because it's derivative that they feel it's derivative of another franchise, especially after the fourth one, where
Yes,
looks like a man dead. Even though they're trying to see how they can bring him back for number five, but
right.
when you have that finality to the franchise,
But
I
that's why
think
they
it's hard.
marketed him so hard in the movie
Yeah, because I was
because
just thankful that when the title card came
they're
out,
trying to put butts in seats. They're like,
yeah,
hey, John Wick's in this one.
well,
Hey, look, John Wick, he's actually in
look,
it.
look, look, Keanu, look at, ooh, look,
Right.
yeah.
So
You,
they
you
were,
know,
and if
really putting
and
him
that's
hard.
the only thing I'll probably knock the film for. Where
Yes.
it's not even a complete knock because I think how they managed to do it in the film from an execution standpoint worked.
Yes.
It's
It
just
wasn't overwhelming.
conceptually, I'm still on the fence as to whether or not it was absolutely necessary.
No, and I totally agree. Was it necessary? No. Do I see why they did it to put butts in seats? Yes.
yes. Because
But
see, here's the
but
thing.
in the converse, it also, like you said, Coyote, it was not like overly done. It's still, you can question it, but it still fit, right? You can still say, was this
Mhm.
necessary? But you can still say it still fits.
And then you also have to consider Lilo and Stitch just eating everybody's lunch right now.
Exactly.
Right. Because another thing I wanted to mention as well, because this is my concern, is I'm hoping we don't get saturated with John Wick movies the same way we got saturated with Saw movies.
Yeah.
Because I felt like with the Saw franchise, after the third one, I checked out. I was good. Like
I
the
was with
first
you on
one
that.
was amazing. The second one was decent. After the third one, I'm like, why are we still here? But now, don't get me wrong. With John Wick, like I said, I felt they were solid. Like I said, with the exception of the runtime in the fourth one, they were all solid movies. But considering how the fourth one ended, we all know good and damn well John Wick ain't dead.
I mean, come on now. Like you said,
They
money
don't
talks.
often like
Yeah.
that. Not
Yeah.
not
But I
I
not
mean,
mean,
not.
but
the other
also
thing
John
you have
Wick
to
5 has
consider.
been
Hold
confirmed.
on, hold on, hold on,
Yeah.
hold on. Because I was gonna
Okay.
say,
Okay.
considering how that last one ended, you still need to have enough impetus to give us a reason to go back and see five.
Right.
But like I
Yeah.
said, at the same time, you don't want to keep because remember because you got the Wick movies, you got Ballerina,
Yeah.
you had the Continental TV series, which was fair to middling, but you don't want to inundate us so much with a franchise that by the time the really important films come along, because I'm quite sure whenever they come out with five and God forbid six, we may get some resolution to everything that's going on with the high table. But
Yeah.
by the time those comes around, if we're oversaturated, nobody's going to care.
Yeah. What's the
Well, we
term?
also have like the
John
Kate
Wick
spinoff
fatigue?
that Donnie Yen is apparently directing.
There's
Oh,
another one. No. So what now? Say that again.
I think they're still developing a spinoff with Donnie Yen's character from 4, and I
they
think
are.
the
Yes.
last thing I heard is that he might actually direct that one.
Yeah. So see, this is what I'm saying is we don't want things to be so oversaturated that by the time we really need to see the important ones, nobody cares anymore. That's what I'm saying. Because see, I do see this as going in a different direction than the Saw films. Because like I said, the Saw films, no, it was just torture porn for the sake of torture porn.
Right.
John
But
Wick
also,
has a story, has a solid story behind it. Because like I said, it's still a thing of he's still going after the high table for
Yeah.
everything that's been happening to him in the first place.
Yeah.
but you also have to take into consideration, um, Keanu Reeves 60 years old,
Yeah.
and even when he started this franchise, again, going back to the Wick is Pain documentary where they go through that training, that is
Brutal.
no joke. And I think once you see like how long it takes them to develop each installment, I seriously doubt it's going to get to the point where it's like, okay, we are going to do as many John Wick films as we're doing Saw, just from a physical
Yeah.
standpoint, just from a logistic standpoint, as far as
Right.
planning out all of those films. There's
Yeah.
only so much you can do in the action genre like that, where so much of it is based around that amount of physical fight choreography versus something like Saw, where okay, you can just bring in a new effects team to come up with new gore.
Yeah.
Right. Just find creative ways. Yeah. Let me kind of make clear. So the idea I'm thinking is not so much that they want to drag this out, but if you want to expand on the universe, go on and wrap the main timeline up, or get as close to it as you can possible. Because again, yes, with Keanu being 60, about to be 61. Yeah, you can't ask that man to do too many more movies. It's kind of like, we had this discussion about Mission Impossible. Same thing. Tom Cruise been doing
Oh,
that same
Tom
franchise.
Cruise is a whole different animal. He is
Yeah,
fueled
he
by
is.
Xenu.
He ready to do that till he's 90. Let's be real.
Right.
He is trying to have the most baller death of all time.
Yes.
Yeah,
He is going to die on camera.
off an airplane. Getting his head
100%.
So, all right, fellas. So let's go on and wrap this one up. And this was a really good discussion. So I will make it a point to try to see Ballerina this week. And I got 3 things on my list. So Ballerina's on my list. Lilo and Stitch somehow. I got to try to see that. I'm really curious to see how well they did that because I've been hearing good things, shockingly. And the Unholy Trinity. Yeah, if you don't know what the Unholy Trinity is about, go watch the trailer. You're gonna laugh when you see Sam Jackson. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
So on this one, I'm just gonna let everybody know. Thank you for watching. We're out.
Peace.
Later.